I was looking over my videos and I realized we don't have nearly enough dislikes like we normally do. So today we're talking about why I've thought about it a little bit. I was very disappointed at first, but the more I started to think about the new prices of the new iPhones, the more I realized I'm okay with it. And I actually think it's fair, and I actually think the iPhones are worth what they're asking for, and I understand no one agrees with me on that. But I'm gonna do my best to try to explain myself and my thinking. I don't expect you to agree, but I at least hope we can have an interesting conversation about that will go so civilly and so respectful. So this is why I think the new iPhones this year are fairly priced. Now, let's just get something out of the way from the start. I'm not okay with the fact that they are still including 5-watt charge bricks with $1,000 phones. That is absurd. I thought last year they should have included fast chargers, especially given last year they supported fast charging. Why not ship it with it? I thought last year was late. In 2018, though, it's absolutely unexcusable. It's absurd. Makes no sense to me why they wouldn't include it, but I guess the reason that's not a deal breaker for me is because I've been doing the portless challenge since 2017. So I haven't plugged anything into my iPhone and everything's been inductive. And because I'm going to keep doing the portless challenge, it's not really affecting me personally. But if that affects you personally, I totally get your frustrations. I'm with you. I'm not disagreeing with that. What I realized after I did the recap video yesterday is that, wow, they didn't change the price of the iPhone X. They updated the internals. They added a little bit better video. They added the gold option. Overall, though, still $1,000 starting price for a 5.8-inch OLED display. And we were all expecting them to lower the price because the iPhone X, while it was one of the most popular smartphones last year and this year, it was pretty pricey. But as soon as I went back to my regular iPhone X on the day-to-day and I start using it again yesterday and the day before that, I started realizing this phone is not lagging behind. This phone is not aging very much at all. This is holding up in 2018, and I'm sure it's going to continue to hold up into the 2020s probably just fine with the iOS updates they're going to roll out to it and how fast the A11 Bionic chip is. Even though we got that A12 chip that's even faster, A11 is still industry leading, and there's a lot of CPUs in the Android field that still come nowhere near close as fast as the A11, and Apple went ahead and topped that again. But the point I'm trying to make is this is definitely something we're maybe not used to getting because we've been spoiled the last couple years. This is an S upgrade of phone. That means it's not supposed to be major, it's not supposed to be huge, it's just supposed to expand and perfect a little bit more on what we got last year. If you compare the iPhone XS upgrade to other S upgrades we've had in the past, you'll realize this is actually more major than we're used to. The iPhone 6 to the 6S upgrade, it was a very similar situation. We got things like 3D Touch, which are cool, but, you know, not game-changing. We got 4K video, we got rose gold. Once again, adding a gold option. Always the train of thought when adding an S model is to expand on that color options. And maybe a little bit better aluminum. You know, it wasn't major. And that's what happens when you have a super cycle, when you have a bunch of people upgrading their phones all at the same time. The year following, usually they don't do anything too drastic because they're working on the actual next design refresh, or they don't have the money or the research ready to start implementing real big game-changing features yet, which means that 1 year after the iPhone X, which was a super cycle, iPhone 7 to 10, that was a very massive change in design, in functionality, and how we use the phone, and software. A lot of things were changing. So it makes sense to me that after having a super cycle year, we would have a very small, minute year. If you were watching my videos leading up to this, you know that I was not that excited for the XS, and turns out I was rightfully so. There wasn't that much to be excited about. But what this is a first for is we've never gotten a new size option, let alone 2 new size options for an S upgrade. Remember 5 to 5S? Got a new gold color, got biometrics for the first time, which was cool. A little bit better camera, a little bit better CPU, but overall, design basically stayed the same. With this S upgrade, you're getting a whole nother size option available, and this is also another first for Apple. There are 2 size options that have different price ranges, and there is almost no exclusives to the Plus model. This used to really bother people. In fact, Google, when they first announced the Pixel, liked to criticize Apple because they said you shouldn't get hardware or software exclusives for the different size options. You should get everything that the big phone offers in the smaller phone if that's the size you prefer. But then they went ahead ahead and made the Pixel 2 XL look infinitely better than the regular Pixel 2, which looked like absolute garbage. But for a long time for Apple, that was true. When the iPhone 6 Plus and 6 came out, you got optical image stabilization on the Plus, but not on the regular 6. With the 7, you had the dual camera with portrait mode on the Plus, but not the regular 7. And even last year, with the 8 Plus and the 10, you had dual optical image stabilization on the 10 with a better aperture. So once again, if you wanted different size options, you got different hardware features. With the XS and XS Max, this is the first time that's actually not been the case. The cameras and the stereo recording on both of these things are equal. There is no advantage in the hardware with the cameras to picking one phone over the other, which I think a lot of people actually appreciate, because they can buy the phone that they think the size makes the most sense and not lose out on any features that might be exclusively available to the Max, of course, with the exception of battery life. But like I said, going back to my regular 10, I was not getting that same feeling I did when I had an iPhone 7 Plus and the 10 came out. As soon as that 10 was out and it was in marketing, I immediately felt like my 7 Plus was old-fashioned, it was dated, with that aluminum back, and there were better cameras now and more bezel-less designs. I felt like there was a future iPhone that I was gonna be able to upgrade to, and my 7 Plus was instantly feeling very dated. I'm not getting that same feeling with my iPhone 10 because the differences with this S upgrade are very minimal. Now, I see a lot of people comparing the iPhone 10 to the Note 9 because everyone says, if you get a Note 9, you get more storage, you get these cameras, you get an S Pen, and you get all this beautiful stuff that Android includes. But what people aren't comparing the Note 9 to is the year before. A lot of people are saying that the iPhone XS is not even different. Well, look at the differences between the Note 9 and the Note 8. You know what the difference is? There was a price raise there. The iPhone 10 did not get a raised price. You got an option to buy a bigger one, which cost more money, but to the people who were just hoping to get a better iPhone 10 and maybe they haven't got one yet, the XS stayed at that exact same price. The Note 8 did not. They rose the price of the Note phone and put better specs in it, which is good. I would hope they would put better specs in it if the phone is overall costing more. But originally, you could buy a Note phone for $930. Now you can no longer do that. It starts at $1,000. So there was a price raise and spec bump there. The difference with the iPhone XS is that there was not a price raise. You got a spec bump, but not a raise in price. Now we can go back to the whole, but it's $1,000! And that's absurdly expensive, but keep in mind, so many people are on monthly plans now that the difference between a XS and a XS Max or a XR are very, very small. Sometimes a difference of $4 a month that will grant you OLED and dual cameras and better batteries and thinner bezels for a difference of $4 a month. And if you don't care about the iPhone 10 and you don't care about notches and iOS and the exclusivity of that ecosystem when you get iMessage and AirDrop, 6 years of iOS updates and you know exactly when you're getting those updates, unlike most of Android where you're unsure how long you're getting support, you're unsure when those updates are going to be available, and you don't have the benefits of iMessage, which I hear a lot of people say all the time, oh, come on, it's just iMessage. iMessage is the only reason people buy iPhones. iMessage is texting. Smartphones are primarily texting devices. At their very, very core, that's what phones were originally made for, communication. If you can't really nail texting correctly and you can't send high-resolution pictures and high-resolution videos to a wide array of people, and if you get on a plane and you suddenly can't text people anymore because you have to be in airplane mode, with iMessage, you have support for Wi-Fi. So as long as there's Wi-Fi in the plane, you can keep texting everyone via one standard stock built-in messages app that even if people don't have iPhones, you can still text people within that. Apple thought through that process and nailed it from the beginning, and that's why so many people stick with it today, because they really nailed that process. I don't really think it makes sense to underestimate or undercut and act like iMessage isn't really that important when communication is probably the one thing we all have in common with our smartphones. Some people do gaming, some people do work, some people take pictures. The one thing we need all of our smartphones to do is text, and when your phone can't really get that right and you have to embed Messenger and hope people have Facebook accounts and merge SMS with Messenger or get WhatsApp and you have to kind of fix the problem yourself, that's more steps that people don't want to take. Now, in regards to the iPhone XR, which I've seen a lot of controversy over, it's basically a lot of people looking at the tech specs, which I think you're missing the point of the XR. It was not to be the highest spec iPhone possible. That's what the XS is for. The XR is made for the absolute essentials. Yes, congratulations, you can do math. You can't put a 1080p display display on a $750 phone? They weren't trying to. We thought it was going to be a 720p display a year ago, so we were kind of expecting this display to be lower pixels per inch, and then it's actually a little bit higher than 720p. It's above 300 pixels per inch, which by no means is great, but if you don't think that's fair, if you don't think that price makes sense, understand, then it's not marketed for you. This is marketed for people who can't see the difference in that display. Yes, they are out there. I know and understand there are OnePlus phones with 1080p displays that are much cheaper, but that is their flagship. That is what they're hoping everyone will buy. While the 10R is definitely catered to a certain market, it is not supposed to be catering to the people who want the best display possible. That's why the bezels are thicker. That's why there is a 10S. That is for people who want the best overall experience. The 10R is not supposed to be a budget iPhone. It's supposed to be a budget iPhone 10. If you can try to understand that, there is a difference between getting into the iOS market and getting into the future of the iPhone 10 design style and design approach. If Apple wants people to just get into the iOS ecosystem and people don't really care about notches, bezel-less trends, or dual cameras or anything like that, that's why they keep the iPhone 8 and 7 around. They start at $450 now, and while they're not the best highest spec phones on the market, there are still a ton of people to this day using theirs and having a perfectly fine experience. Getting iOS updates that speed up their phone, and with the iPhone 8, still doing a lot of things that even Galaxy phones can't do. That's why you saw this year the iPhone 8, the regular sized one, outsell the Galaxy S9, because there is a large market of people out there who, for one, don't care about pixels per inch. The iPhone 8 is not a particularly high resolution display, but for older people who can't really see the difference, or people who just don't care because it's a smartphone, they don't need to see every pore on someone's face. They just need iOS. They just want a phone that works reliably. The sales numbers can prove this. I'm not saying that you're wrong if you prefer Galaxy, if you prefer Androids, it's your personal preference, that's fine. I'm just saying there are people out there who don't believe exactly what you believe and may prefer things to just work reliably. They don't really care about the resolution. 840 pixels across is perfectly fine for them, and they just need Face ID so that they can unlock their bank account reliably. That's a very large market of Apple's audience, and if you're upset with the 10R price and specs, it's simply because it's not for you. If you want a 1080p display in 2018 that's cheaper than $750, the iPhone 8 Plus is exactly a 1080p display, and it's $700, not $750. Plus you can keep Touch ID, plus there's no notch, but you still retain things like 4K at 60, wireless charging, and a CPU that's still faster than many Android phones, way into the $1,000 price range. You can complain all day about the fact that the iPhone XS Max can cost up to $1,500, but there will always still be a red phone that costs $1,700 if you wanted to get it in titanium, and it's a Snapdragon 835, not 45. And you can still buy an iPhone 8 for under $700 and get a CPU better than that of a Galaxy S9 or Note 9. As I've said in this video countless times, we don't all want the same thing. We all want our phones to do different things, but clearly, if you just look at sales and what people prefer, there are a lot of people that value what Apple values in their phones, and making iOS run reliably and having iMessage work so seamlessly and set up, and that's why people will keep going back to iPhone. So that's why I think the price points of the new iPhones make sense. No, $750 is not a budget. It is not a cheap phone. It's just supposed to be more reachable. Maybe that's why they went with R, than having to spend $1,000 for an iPhone 10. Apple said, if you want Face ID and if you want gestures, here is a cheaper option. We had to take out a couple of things to make this more affordable, but if you want that futuristic design, there's your option for it. No, it is not supposed to be cheap, but if you want cheap, there are older iPhones they offer that will get you that reliable iOS experience and ecosystem. Hope that made sense to some of you. Hope you can try to understand my point of view, even if you don't agree. If you like Android, you like Galaxies, or you like the Pixel, that's totally fine. I think there's nothing wrong with that. They cater to their market and they do it well. Let me know what you think in the comments below. This is your Apple Sheep here. I'll see you in the next one.